Hi, I'm Milena, booktuber, bookstore owner and classics lover, and today I want to share with you a book haul. I did one semi-recently. I don't buy that many books anymore. Having said that, there are 3 stacks of books right here, but I don't film book hauls that regularly, and I did one in March this year, I believe. So I do have a few books to show you. They're literally any genre I can think of. So let's start with one of the most beautiful book boxes. I got a few of my friends convinced me to read The Hunger Games, which I never did because I didn't read fantasy as a teen. Now I do, and I love the Hunger Games movies, and now of course there's the new book out that has such a hype that I definitely felt FOMO. So this is a box set. This has the first 3 and the prequel that is The Ballad of Songs and Snakes, of which I did not necessarily love the film, but I'm so encouraged by how well received the newer books are, because I feel like that's such a gamble to have such a long period of time of not writing anything in the series and then continuing it, writing prequels, but everyone loves them. So I'll show you some of these beautiful editions. What I find also very encouraging is that they're not very big, and the font's also quite big. So yeah, I love this one. I love the floppy paperback. There's also a more luxurious hardcover edition of these, but I quite like to read from paperbacks. Alright, I have 2 non-fictions. One that I bought for the Women's Prize, but that didn't make it to the shortlist, and because of that I ran out of time. And that is Oudlin by Jenny Fagan. This is about growing up in a system in Britain or in Scotland. It says, Jenny Fagan was property of the state before birth. She drew her first breath in care, and by the age of 7 she had lived in 14 different homes and had her name changed multiple times. That's pretty horrific, if I'm being honest. It says 20 years after her first attempt to write this powerful memoir, Jenny is finally ready to share her account. I was kind of surprised that this didn't make it on a shortlist because so many people loved it, but I will read this once I have a minute. And then another non-fiction that I ordered. I told my book distributor that I wanted it months ago. I wanted it in preparation for my George Eliot video, but that is a very short introduction to George Eliot by Julian Atkinson, or Juliet Atkinson. I love these editions. There are also audiobooks for. This one doesn't have an audiobook, I believe, but they're just so rich and dense in information, but so readable because it's like not that big. I read a few of these for uni back in the day and I found them very, very useful. So this is all about George Eliot, and since I'm still reading a massive biography on the Brontes, I'm not gonna have time anytime soon to read a big biography on George Eliot. So I wanted to read this in preparation for that video. But I mean, I still will, because I find George Eliot as a writer, but also as a person, fascinating. I have this, finally, after months. Talking about the Women's Prize, I have one from the fiction long list. That is the only one I haven't read, except for the one that I won't read. This is Birding. This is a 2 POV story about 2 women of different ages who have lived a very different life. I think one of them was famous and one of them lived a much, I would say, much more sheltered life, and they come together. It's a sapphic story, I believe, so I'm excited for that. But I just didn't have the time to read this for the Women's Prize before the winner was announced. I did not know this existed until Claire Fenby pointed it out, and then I instantly bought it, of course. But this is Mrs. Dalloway's Party. So this was written during the same time as Mrs. Dalloway, and this is, or in the same period as Mrs. Dalloway. And these are 7 short stories that show the author's fascinations with parties and all the excitement, the fluctuations of mood and temper, and the heightened emotions which surround these social occasions. By Virginia Woolf, clearly. I've read Mrs. Dalloway twice, I want to say now, so I mean, it's a tiny little book, but clearly needs to be read. Right, saying that I had 2 non-fictions, or this is short stories, isn't it? These are true stories, so kind of essays, but more told as stories for children. And this is Owning It, Our Disabled Childhoods in Our Own Words. Jen Campbell from the YouTube channel, and the author, of course, was a co-editor of this book, and when she mentioned it in one of her videos, I of course pre-ordered it, since I have looked at some of the names of these stories, and some other people that I really enjoy hearing from are also in this book. So they all tell stories about their disabled childhood, which I'm really excited to read. And Every story has a beautiful illustration like this. It's been a while since I read anything targeted towards children. It's good to get back into that. I'm not sure you would classify this as non-fiction or as short stories. Then we have some prize winners, because of course we do. From the International Booker Prize. There were a few that were interesting to me, but one that sparked it, and that was Hunchback. This again has disability representation. It is about a disabled woman who writes erotic fiction. I think her erotic fiction is quite bad, what I've heard people say. It's supposed to be like that. And then her character is someone who secretly reads that fiction and about their relationship. I'm excited to read this. It's very thin, which I'm kind of disappointed by. I want this to be much bigger and just take my time of really getting to know these kind of characters. Maybe I'm wanting a romance from this and I shouldn't because it's literary fiction. But I'm still very curious about this. And then another one is the one that won the Libris Literatuurprijs, which is like the Booker but in the Netherlands for literary fiction, and that is Europa. Which I think is how, it's not a Dutch word, I think. It sounds like Europe, the way you would say Europa is Europe in Dutch. This is by a Dutch Moroccan author, I believe. That it's a big exploration, oh, I need to translate. It says that it's a big exploration of a side of Europe that's hidden for most people. And I actually don't know what this is about. I bought a copy for myself, I bought a copy for my dad, hoping that we could possibly read it together in an attempt that I feel like I want to read more Dutch fiction, especially Dutch fiction written by women, because they are so undervalued. Or maybe I've just not been a big part of the publishing world in the Netherlands for the last 10 years. But I feel like when I see a woman publishing in the Netherlands and she's getting a lot of recognition for her work, I want to get on the hype train. So I'll read this at some point. Although some people have now told me that it's like not very good. So that scares me. A new release by another booktuber is The Lady of the Lake by Jean Menzies. I feel like Jean is mostly a writer, secondly a booktuber, correct me if I'm wrong, and this is I think a mythical historical fiction. Again, I have just watched a few of her videos and was like, yep, I'll order that. So this is a King Arthur retelling from the perspective of Vivian, who is apparently supposed to capture the heart and the hand of the young Prince Arthur. Was Vivian a real part of the myth? Well, I don't know. But Arthur's sister Morgan, oh, but then Arthur has a sister, and this book is sapphic. Okay, I want to stop reading the back because this sounds amazing. Can we stop filming this book haul so I can read this? This sounds so much fun, and it's not gonna take me long to read this. Also watch me use that clip in 2 years in a video. I have another Thomas Hardy because I'm still doing the Thomas Hardy read-along with Mary. I'm not sure when we're going to fit this in, but I know we will at some point, and that is Thomas Hardy's debut, which is A Pair of Blue Eyes. This is supposed to be quite a different story than the usual Thomas Hardy, and it's more, I think, autobiographical. I think the main character, the female main character in this book, is based on his wife or on someone that he fell in love with at some point. I'm not sure how I will feel about this, but since I'm reading so much Thomas Hardy with Thomas Hardy Readalong, I have to read his debut, I feel. A new release for the Paws and Pages book club, which I'm really excited for because this author had a debut novel that I want to say went viral. I'm sure it did. It got so much recognition. I read it. It was so good. It deserves all the praise and love, and they have finally released another novel, and that is Ocean Vuong. They wrote The Emperor of Gladness, which is their new release, and we have picked it for the Paws and Pages book club in June and July. I'm very excited to read this. One of the taglines is, following the cycles of history, memory and time, The Emperor of Gladness shows the profound ways in which love, labor and loneliness form the bedrock of American life. I think we have two main characters, a 19-year-old and someone who is a woman who's retired and suffering from dementia. Sounds very interesting. I think mental health is a big topic in this book as well. We'll have to discover that. Alright, and then the most random thing ever. My mom said she bought a book, but she accidentally bought the wrong book. She was like, do you want it? I'm too lazy to send it back. I was like, sure. I think it's a literary fiction and it's called The Nacht, but I guess it's The Night. I think it's from the Swedish author Sarah Gordon. I think it was translated from Swedish. Yes, it's translated from Swedish, and it's about a mother whose daughter goes missing, but her daughter has diabetes. I think diabetes type 1, so she needs to find her before a certain time or her life is very much in danger. And I read that and I was like, okay, I'll take this off your hands and I'll see how I like it. I have not heard anyone talk about it, or I've just not made a connection because people have read the English edition, but I'll definitely use this for like a prompt or something because it seemed like nice and quick, and it reminded me a little bit of Elena Knows by Claudia Pinheiro, which was a 5-star for me, and I really enjoyed that one. I have 2 romances and then I have the results of 2 blind dates, which is gonna be fun. I am always looking for new romance authors to enjoy and dive into, because with romance is either love or ick, and when I find one that I just trust and I know I'm never gonna get the ick, I buy a few books from them. And my newest obsession, my previous obsession was Olivia Date, and I've not let her go at all, but my next one is Hannah Bonham Young, because I loved Out on a Limb, and now I bought 2 books in a new series that is the Next series. The first one is Next of Kin. This is about 2 people who want to become the primary carers of their siblings. I think there's some kind of rule that they need to provide a certain income, so they move in together to combine their income, and then they can rent a home together. Something impossible sounding that would not happen in real life. Maybe it would, I don't know. But yeah, clearly I love a roommate romance, so I think I love this. And then we have a DIY romance about these 2 characters, and I think the 2 male main characters in these books are co-workers because they have the same job, so I guess they're co-workers, and that's a connection in the series. This man right here is a mechanic. This person right here has bought a van that she wants to DIY and I guess travel or live in, and they're friends. He's going to help her. I think they're kind of a friends with benefits situation. If this has a lot of details on them making over the van, I'm gonna live for that because I really enjoy those YouTube videos. But like trope wise, I think this one will be more my thing because this is gonna make me cry. I mean, how could it not? So yeah, I'm very excited for those 2. I got 2 blind dates with a book. The first one is from, I will leave links to their stores in the description. The first one is from a new Dutch bookish web shop, and I think she also does market stalls, called Cozy Wozy, which is such a lovely name. I picked a I think it was a fantasy with LGBTQ plus representation, and I got the Gilded Ones, which I think I've heard a few things about, but I'm not really sure if anyone really liked it. But this is a fantasy, and it says, are we girls or are we demons? Are we going to die or are we going to survive? A riddle. Lovely. In this bold and immersive fantasy, a young heroine fights to save a world that would dare tame her and discover she is her own fiercest weapon. I mean, all those things are not really screaming at me, but maybe I'll really like it. And then another one, I did show this in a vlog, I believe. Another blind date with a book I got at a physical store, and I got The Honey Witch, and this also said, I think it said romantasy and LGBTQ plus rep, which apparently, if those 2 things are written down on a blind date with a book, I kind of feel like, oh, there's a possibility I like that. Especially with romantasy, I have kind of a hard time picking my own book, so if something says romantasy, I'll just pick that one. Okay, so this is about Marigold, who is going to be trained by her grandmother to be the next Honey Witch. I think this also said like cottage core vibes, which I also love. I've heard very mixed things about this book, and we're gonna experience it. I think those are the books for now that I'm able to show you. Let me know if there are any books in this haul that you would really like to read, or that you think I really like or dislike. I would love to hear from you. If you're not sure what to say, just leave me an emoji that represents your current mood. Or just one that smiles. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you have a lovely day or evening, and I hope to see you in the next one. Doei!